Mike, we've known each other for a few years now, and I
Hmm.
respect the love that you have for LeBron James, and I know you respect the hate that I have for LeBron James. And this season, especially the second half of the season, has been nothing but talk about LeBron James, the Lakers, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. Now that the
Yeah.
Lakers, now that the Lakers have been officially eliminated from the play-in tournament, how do you feel about the ramifications going forward with this team right now?
It's not pretty. It's not pretty. The narratives that are coming out, we got rumors like Russell Westbrook going to Charlotte, a possible buyout, letting Frank Vogel go. I mean, we know that when it comes to situations like this, of course, LeBron's going to take the reins and say, break the whole thing up. Or last time he was in a situation like this, from my perspective, he just walked away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's I don't know. This is going to be a very very interesting off season for me to see what happens because right now it's so early in the game. The season's not even over. We still have one game left in the season, and all it is pointing fingers at this point. Pointing fingers, pointing fingers. Everybody's pointing fingers, and we saw that over what the past 2 weeks, the whole DeRozan stuff came out. So
Right. Right.
it, it's like, who's just gonna sit down and say, "All right, this is my fault that I'm going to take my position for. What do we need to do to move forward?" So it's kind of like that type of a relationship where you say, "All right, you're talking to your wife. I'm sorry. I have my perspective on this, but I can see where I was wrong. How do we move forward?" Right? That's how you get to grow. But unless they do that, they're not going to grow and go anywhere. It's just going to be all the same situation until whoever accepts their positions in the situation and moves forward. Then at that point, we can talk. But right now, it's such a mess that I don't even like. What I ask myself, what is this? This is the drama of the Lakers. It's the storyline for the NBA this year. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Was the Lakers are being so bad.
It's something that we haven't seen before because even though Kevin called it, so I will give him credit for that. On
Hmm.
paper, this team was supposed to be so much better. And even the reasons why Kevin said it was going to fail, historically, teams that are older generally make the playoffs, generally make a deep run. Like the NBA champions usually are older teams every year. So I wasn't really buying that. And I'm speaking of the role players like Carmelo Anthony, who scored but didn't have anything impactful going on. Dwight Howard, who seemed distracted for the majority of the NBA season. Anthony
Hmm.
Davis, who missed damn near half the season.
Hmm.
LeBron missed a couple of weeks here and there. Russell played for the duration of the season, but he was off a little bit this year. So on paper, it looked like this team could have made a deep playoff run. The parts didn't work. They didn't fit. And I have two issues with that. When you have players who may not fit, that's what you use preseason for. And a
Hmm.
lot of those guys didn't play in the preseason. And that's where the coach has to figure out how to make it work. I can make the argument that Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, people said those two wasn't going to work. But it took those
Hmm.
guys to sit down and have a conversation where Wade relented and said, "Hey, we brought you here. You're the guy. You take the most shots. I'll fall back." Chris Bosh was never in that equation, but he had to make sacrifices too. So I don't understand how this Laker team couldn't figure out how to get Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis on the same page. How do you feel about Frank Vogel not being able to get these guys to buy into sacrifice?
I mean that throwing it back a couple of episodes ago, where I think we first started talking about the Lakers during their downslide during like the midseason, right?
Yeah.
I had two people that I blamed. It wasn't just Russell Westbrook, although on the floor when Russell Westbrook was when he was actually running the game, it wasn't pretty either way. His jump shots were hitting shot clocks. You know what I mean? Like as an NBA player, that should not be happening,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So the floor moves I can blame on Russell, but the mental aspect and preparation, I completely blame on Frank Vogel. His transition game and moving his teams in and out was so bad. What was it?
Yeah.
Anthony Davis said we had more lineup changes
Hmm.
than we had wins.
Yeah. It's horrible.
And it comes down to where they had 30, like it was like 39 different lineup changes and
Yeah.
31 wins. So he was 100% correct,
Right.
right? So I think that that's a problem with Frank Vogel, but also I think it's ego problem when the players are in that position where it's like, hey, we can just step on the court and we can just run this whole thing. Well, guess what? Rude awakening. It's kind of almost like, and this is going to sound funny coming from me, but this is where the one year that I blame LeBron for the whole season is 2011. And it's
Oh
almost
wow.
like
Oh wow.
it's almost like it's almost like this is a repeat of that in a way. Like I can't fully put the blame on LeBron, but of course when the team is surrounded by him, you gotta then step up and be that leader, right? And
Yeah.
that almost wasn't there. I mean, I see what he wanted to do where it's like sometimes your parents have to let you go out as a adolescent and make mistakes, right? So I think that that's where some of his extended injury time came from, where it was like a couple games here and there where it was like, okay, well, you should be okay, come back and play. And he's not. He's giving that time on the court for those guys to gel a little bit better. And I don't necessarily think that that worked too well. Like you can't do that. You got to grab the reins at some point and say, "Yo, this is how it's going to be ran." And they didn't have that all season. So if we take 2011, where LeBron quit in the finals,
Yes.
this is almost like the same type of a situation because nobody took control. Nobody, So I don't know. This is kind of an interesting perspective coming from a LeBron fan like myself. I do put a lot of emphasis and responsibility on his shoulders because they call him Le GM. So you know, take those names, right? Take those names and those personifications and do something. We saw you go to the finals 10 straight years,
Yeah. That's incredible too, by the way.
or eight straight years, 8 straight years. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's incredible. 2011 gives me nightmares. Okay.
Oh, and I bet it does because that's when we're talking about not six, not seven, not eight,
Yeah.
not right.
Yeah.
That whole conversation, and that's what I go to where it's like when I see this type of a season, I hear that same thing over again. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, man, why would you let this happen again?
The the rumors with Charlotte, I'm just like, who made this up? I don't buy that one bit. Charlotte, as much as I'd love Russell Westbrook and would never say anything bad about Russell Westbrook, Charlotte doesn't need to break up what they have going on to acquire a player like Russell Westbrook. Absolutely not.
Nope,
I've
not
been
at all.
zinging Bryce and all my Orlando Magic fans. That's where I see Russell going. The Magic has some young talent that they need to offload because they can't pay everybody because they're cheap.
Hmm.
Bring what they need a star. Westbrook has star power to his name. He needs a smaller team, kind of like OKC, where he was running roughshod and putting up all these great numbers. Orlando is the perfect fit for him, like absolutely perfect, to the point where his wife even said, if he goes to the Orlando Magic, they'll be a playoff team. So,
Hey, and you're right, it could happen. But
right,
my question then is this: does he get traded and Orlando pick up what that last $44 million contract year, right?
yeah,
Or the other rumor is the Lakers buy him out. Well, if the Lakers buy him out and then he walks, so of course you're going to get a deal on that. You're going to get less than the 44, 45 million that you owe him because you're striking a deal, but you've already set your team back financially for a whole other year.
right. No,
So
they
it's a lose-lose situation for the Lakers period for me.
well, they don't need to buy him out because that's definitely the lose lose situation. But they can
Hmm.
because even if they bring, so here's the thing with the Orlando Magic, they've been trying to build through the draft since the Dwight Howard situation, and they failed. Um, they've traded away Sabonis. Now, don't get me wrong, they traded him away on draft night. They didn't know what he was going to be, but that was a bad move. In hindsight, that was a
Right.
bad move. You got rid of Victor Oladipo. Yeah, he's hurt now. I mean, he's playing, but he was hurt. But he did have a couple of decent years in Indiana.
Hmm.
Elfrid Payton. Bad pick. Is he still around? Yeah, but he's been trashed for the majority of his NBA career. Um,
Hmm.
Aaron Gordon, they got sick of him, discarded him. Jonathan Isaac, that's the one you need to watch. He's hurt now.
Yeah.
But now you have to pay Mobamba in the offseason, who's actually been playing okay since Isaac has been done. Um, they have Mo Wagner now, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, Markel Fultz just returned. They're not going to be able to pay all these youngins, and all these youngins are going to want a
Right.
max deal. Ship 2 or 3 of them out to the Lakers that can match the 47 million that Westbrook is going to get. Isaac's going to be a part of that package. Fultz may be a part of that package. So the Lakers instantly have 2 young
I
pieces.
hope not.
But I'm just saying, the Lakers. Here's the tough reality. They're not going to compete for a championship after this season. Like this is it. This is a wrap. This team isn't going to magically come together. And this is actually going to
Right.
lead to my next topic, where we're going to talk about the last 2 NBA finals and the 4 teams and where they are. But the Lakers are toast. So you have to rebuild now. And one thing we know about LeBron, he's not going to be around for a rebuild. Absolutely not. Uh,
Yeah. No. Hmm.
like I have no idea, but I think Orlando will at least give them some breathing room, because all the young talent that the Lakers got rid of to acquire Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook, you can start getting some of that back. You're not going to get the draft
Hmm.
picks right now, but you can at least get some of the young talent back that you traded away.